Welcome to Kansas, where wind blows. I'm not doing on-site work today because we got 35-mile-an-hour sustained winds with gusts higher than that. And going out welding and that stuff out in the grassland is not really a good idea. So hiding in the garage today, trying to get things organized in here. It's taking a lot longer to organize this garage than I thought it would, but that's the way it goes. Anyway, today I need to get my little bench grinder up off the floor, so I'm going to build a little stand for it. I started by setting my bench grinder up on the frame of my press. I was just a little bit short, so I looked around, grabbed this piece of scrap rectangular tubing here. That was really darn close. I think it actually come up even a couple inches from that yet. The next step was to look around and see what I had to work with. Don't have a lot laying around on hand at the moment. Then it was just doing a little bit of doodling on the floor, trying to figure out some measurements. But most of this was already in my head. And for some reason I decided it'd be easiest to start out with the plate that the bench grinder actually sits on. Don't really know why. And since I'm really not set up here in the garage, I was reduced to using a hacksaw for this. Would I lie? I don't know why, but I'm suddenly getting lots of comments on my videos about using cutting oil. I use cutting oil. I usually just cut the footage of me applying it out of the video. Since I'm not completely set up in this shop yet, I just had to use a file to knock off these corners. Would I lie? I thought I could just use this hex shaft and put some nuts down in there, or any kind of spacer, and stack it up like this and spot weld it together to make this hex, but that ain't working. I think I'm going to break this down into sections. A hex is, 60 degrees each side, so I'm just going to weld them together in pairs at 60 degrees, and then eventually I'll put those three pairs together. Turns out an 1 3/8" shaft works out perfect for this 3-inch wide strap iron to become 60 degrees. Now these two together because this and this should be flat. So that should be easy to do. In theory. Wow. In fact, I think I might even spot it in this inside here. Help pull that in a little bit. About a degree off. Hopefully this fits in here. Ooh, it does not. Okay. So I'm off more than I think. Pull that in just a little bit more, so I guess a degree adds up to a lot. Yeah, that's arcing bad. I can feel it. Next, it was time to cut out the plate that will connect the hex to the square tubing upright. And for that, I'm going to use 3/4 inch plating. Not because I need it, but because I have it on hand, and also because it's going to help lower the center of the gravity of the stand, right? But anyway, 3/4 inch, that's a little bit past what my plasma cutter will do. Therefore, cranking out the old torch. Still a hole in my glove. Since my portaband did not do a very good job of making straight cuts on this 1-inch thick plating for some reason, I don't know, maybe the blade was wore out, I decided to put this hex up in the Rockford lathe and face it. That way it was all nice and even and pretty. Well, heck, I'm guessing I have a hard weld or something, because it just totally chewed up my bit. And I got a ring all the way around this thing. Tempted to see if that can be the bottom side. Let's flip this thing over and see how the other side machines. We'll do that first. I can just take the sanding disc of that and make it look pretty or something. Well, that side turned out really good as far as surface finish and cutting. I didn't have any problems. I do have a divot here in this cut, and that thing is deep. So I'm not going to take off that much metal. I wanted these to be 3 inches, tall this way, and I'm at 2.9 inches. I'm 100 thousandths under already. I actually left an 1/8 of an inch more on these. I cut them at 3 1/8. Thought that'd be enough, but it wasn't. And that divot is deep, really, really deep. I bet it's another 1/8 of an inch deep. So I don't want to go down that far. But looks good on this side. I had no problems turning it. So I guess we'll quit there. To get this plate set in there, I set the hex on a plate, put a couple spacers in there, and then set the hex plate in there. Now I'm having two trains of thought on this. I can either make the thing flush with the top, put the bead on there, either the bead is part of the design, you see the bead, or I can go ahead and raise this plate up just slightly, make more of a corner weld, and that would change the look of it to where it doesn't look like the bead is just sticking up out of this plate. I was just going to weld this channel iron to the top up here. I got to thinking about it, and I decided that I actually want that removable because, well, life changes. You never know what's going to happen. I'm going to put a bolt on the corner of the square tubing to hold it into place. A lot of people put the bolt out on the flat of the tubing, and that is actually not the correct way to do it. It needs to be on the corner. That is where the strength is, and that'll also wedge it on two sides. Also, I don't want the bolt to pull that seam into the other square tubing. So I want to make sure that bolt is in that corner so it pulls the seam away. Wow. Huh. That thing is surprisingly stable. I was going to put square tubing coming out from this to make the feet, but I'm really surprised at how stable this base is without them. It needs just a touch more though, so I decided to cut the square tubing down to a 45, make these little triangle pieces, and just weld them in. Also, I'm lifting the base of this thing up 3/8 of an inch so it doesn't actually touch the ground. That way all the weight is on these feet, and that also makes it a 3-point contact. 3-point contact won't ever rock that way. I am really impressed with how stable this thing is. I thought I'd need a lot longer feet on it than that. Well, I think that looks really nice. That's a really nice stand. It doesn't take up a lot of room. It's tall enough that I can actually use it. I'm just happy with this thing all the way. Very stable, very impressed with that. So, yeah, I'm happy. This thing's awesome. This is way better than buying one of those Harbor Freight stands or something else. So, totally tickled with this. I'm going to try to put the dimensions of all the parts in the description of this video below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy this stand. We'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching, y'all.